James Tung is with us today from the Third Mutual Board. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
And
glad to be here.
Yeah, it's good that you're able to come on. We're going to talk about both water conservation and something that goes along with that, certainly landscape today.
Yes.
And you were a couple things you're going to talk about that we'll get to in just a moment is about water usage and how to notify El Toro Water how many people you have in your manor,
Yes.
which could be a great help. But overall, we know all the problems we're having with water and want to avoid those Tier 3 and Tier 4 basically penalties, right?
Right. Yeah, there's a much higher rate.
Yeah,
charged.
definitely.
Yeah.
So one of the things besides, we've talked about reducing water, and I think it's also been talked about that if you feel that you have some sort of a leak in your house, just something that's dripping, a toilet, something like that, you need to get on that right away and get it fixed.
We're encouraging the residents try to report to the property as soon as they can, and the staff will get onto it because that leaking is throwing the money away.
Yeah.
In addition to wasting water. Yes.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I understand that the amount of money that is spent on the water bill on the upper tiers it's quite a bit, about $10,000 a month or so.
Yeah. So far, I only been on the board for 2 months. I look at the September, it was 13,000, and of course October was a little bit lower than $7,800, but on the average it's about 10,000. And we talk to, we look at, first thing is easiest to look at is the gate 11 because each house has individual meters, and we found there's more than 20 high usage. By that I mean Tier 3, Tier 4, and it's so high. It's like 9 or 10 times as much as the normal 2 people usage. Each home is only 2 people.
Yeah.
And then, in order to make sure exactly what's the problem, in fact, Jim Madsen, our president, he and I visited several of those high users just a few days ago. We found that they're also most of those people are very conscientious about using water. So that's how we conclude it's really not the people using those much water. In fact, we talked to El Toro Water. In fact, Jim Madsen talked to a general manager of El Toro Water. They said, no way 2 people can use this amount of water. So that leads to this leaking.
And when you went to those folks, did you notice, or have they noticed any leak?
No, some of them. One of them, a high user, he says, he just fixed his toilet problem last month. So those some people, they also very sensitive. They know. But the problem is, if the leaking is under the slab, under the slab of your house. And if they don't detect, they don't get the water bill. So it's very hard for the residents to realize if the leaking is hidden.
Now, do you think that's what it could be on some of these manors?
I think most cases are because we know since 2006, Jim Madsen, there was a program called copper epoxy program to fix those copper piping leaking situation. In fact, in my own case, I moved in 2 years ago, but a year and a half ago, I noticed on our cul-de-sac there's a water on the street in the middle.
Yeah.
At first, I thought, maybe it's irrigation water.
Yeah.
So I talked to our landscape people. They say could be, but then we take the opportunity. They stop the irrigation for 3 days. Then the water's still there. So then I called the property service. Then they came and checked. It turned out it was leaking under my home slab.
Wow.
So they have rerouted the copper piping through the ceilings. And I imagine, since most of our houses are in the 40 years,
Yeah.
built in the early 70s.
Yes.
So, especially on those Garden Villa, 3 stories, lots of there's a similar situation. We
Yeah.
think that's the factor, So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously, a big job, and it's hard to find.
Yeah, well,
really is.
It's not too difficult to, as now we know, to detect the leaking. In other words, I don't know how we have to talk to our, experts, but for individual homes, it's in fact, it's not difficult because, if you go to the water meter, there's a little blue dial.
Yes.
And then any small amount of water goes through the meter, the dial will move. So the way we're going to plan to do is we'll visit those high usage homes, then we ask them and say, please don't use water for 10 minutes. Then we'll watch the dial.
Yeah.
If that dial moves, obviously it's leaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the next thing is you want to give a brief explanation of the Tier 1 water charge. What's the allotment per person, and how this may be adjusted?
Well, the El Toro water, unless you report, you apply for a variance. Otherwise, they assume you have 2 people, and allowable is 60 gallons per day per person. So if you multiply that by 2 person by 31 days, and then that's of course that's a gallon. Then you have it divided by a factor of 748 to convert to 100 cubic feet, and then that turned out to be just about 5 units.
Yeah.
And that's what El Toro will look at it. So each house, manor, they allow 5 units per month. And so if you have 3 people, then they have those forms. You can fill it up and apply for variations. So for example, if you have 3 people, in the cases, parents live with daughter, daughter take care of their
Right.
parents, 3 people. And then other cases like there's a caretaker, take care of the parents. A couple, so 3 people. In those cases, they need to apply for it. And also the other case is if you have a medical condition, El Toro will also allow, because your medical condition, you need to use more water. For example, I know one of our directors who lives in the Gate 11, he has some medical conditions and he applied for it, and he was giving more units for Tier 1.
So that's what you need to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that obviously helps everything out.
Yes.
Yeah, in the long run.
Yeah.
Also, you want to talk a little bit about the landscape plan, and obviously the water usage to irrigate everything. That's a large
Yes.
part of it. And we're getting into the months where if we get enough water, even if we get a good amount of rain once a week, that's going to be enough, and we can cut down. Yeah.
I said, oh, thank God, it's
Yeah.
going to rain this this coming week again. Yeah. Well, because of this drought situation, because of our Governor Jerry Brown's request all Californians to reduce using water, so of course our landscape department, we're going to go along with that line by reducing the irrigation water. Well, how we're going to do it? One, of course, is we'll try to convert. One is some turfs, grass, into plants, especially the drought-resistant plant, so that we can reduce the water usage. And so, also we have a lot of slope renovation, because of need new maintenance. In those cases, also we're going to try to replace by the more drought-resistant plants.
Especially on the slopes.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense, because obviously slopes, no matter what the water condition is, are extremely hard to irrigate.
Also, of course, also we're very close to monitoring since we have automatic system, we're monitoring the moisture in the air and how fast they evaporates. Everything is in the automatic system. to make sure that we are not overwatering.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
Yeah, but
good, important point.
last thing I want to also kind of sometimes of course we have not come to that situation, but if in the near future, if the drought becomes so severe, we may have to cut down the irrigation or watering the plants so much but things between the plants and the turf, the grass,
Right.
we have to, if we comes to that situation, we have to sacrifice some of the grass
Yes,
first,
exactly.
because the grass is much cheaper to replace.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm just kind of give a resident a warning. So don't scared, because that's what we're
No,
going
it's
to do.
very true. If
Yeah.
that's what has to,
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
if
but
the
we haven't come to
grass
that
dies back,
situation
then-
yet. Right.
But it's good to make note of that.
Yes.
James, thank you very much for coming on
Oh,
today.
you're quite welcome.
We appreciate
I'm glad
it.
to be here.
Yeah, it's good. This is your first time on,
Yes.
so welcome, and I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
Yes.
All right, you
Thank
take care.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back. We'll
Okay.
get you hooked up.
Yeah. Thank you.
We'll get you unhooked.